That was great, wasn't it? Wow. Could you hear me singing in the back? That's a good thing you couldn't hear that. When I heard the lyrics, some say there is a God above, but I know there is a God within, a God that is expressing in and through me, as all things, through each and every person in the world. I thought that was the perfect opening for what we're going to talk about today. Because I want to talk about this idea of the ego. Everyone has one. Have you ever noticed it? Everyone is expressing that ego. And that ego is the cause of great pleasure. But it's the cause of great pain. Because the ego is based in condition. The ego is based in separateness. The ego is based in a world of duality. The ego is outside of this perfect idea of connection. So when we look at ego, the initials or the letters of the word mean edging God out. So let's explore that and say, what does that mean to edge God out? Could it means to edge love out? Because God is love. But God is not the conditional love that we have been brought up to understand. God is the love that doesn't judge. God is the love that accepts everything as it is. God is the love that sees the beauty in and through and as all things and realizes that everything that is expressing in perfect love in the way that it should at this time, so that the experience and the expression of God can be uplifted through whatever that experience is. So the entity that we call God, which is beyond words, which is beyond bounds, never stands in judgment. But the ego does. Edging God out, edging love out, edging freedom out. If you really think about that, and we're locked into this idea of this personality that we become, this unconscious personality that is always expressing through us, and what is it doing? It's controlling our attitudes, it's controlling our habits of thought, it's controlling our experiences, and all of it is there doing it under this self-made up idea that we are separate. And it is from that idea that we are separate that we go into this mode of being defensive. And we start defending ourselves. We start defending our beliefs. We just start defending our lives in really just accepting ourselves as we are, accepting our beliefs, and while doing that, accepting others having the perfect right to express and to experience uniquely as they do. You see, we've gotten into a society now where we want everyone to conform into our way of being because the ego loves to control. The ego wants to control because why? It gives it power. But if you're all blessed in this idea of oneness, there's no power to contend with. There's just being. Think about this. That when we are in unconditional love and we are outside of the ego, we're in the now. We are fully present in the moment. But the second we judge, whether it be good or bad, right or wrong, this or that, past or future, the second we do that, we've done what? We've caused separation from ourselves and whatever it is we're judging. And that separation, when we have that feeling of separation, that mindset of separation, we have created the illusion within our lives that we're separated from the allness and the love and the infinite nature of the divine. The fact is, it never disappears. Our oneness never disappears. But through our thoughts, we create an illusion of being separate. And it's through the illusion that I'm a vice president. I drive a Maserati. I have a home in University Park. I am this. I own that. I am married to so-and-so. You see, when we get into this idea that we own things, that we possess things, and the ownership and the possession of things, the being of things like that, when we become that, we're subject to what? Conditions. Our love for ourselves now becomes conditional. Because unless we have that which we aspire to, that we've described us as, we're no longer accepting ourselves the way we are. Whole, perfect, and complete. And when we don't accept ourselves the way we are and we're judging ourselves, can we love ourselves? Can we love another? Even less. Because it always starts with self-love before we can go to love of another. This is the greatest mistake that you hear in all of the music and all of the dramas, all of the love stories, that is, I'm not complete without this other person. And you see, that's ego. When you are complete with yourself, when you accept yourself as this perfect, loving, divine vibration of oneness, that everything that is in God is present within you, and through the thoughts that you create, that you decide to use, you create this experience and you fall so deeply in love and accepting yourself as you are. You radiate an energy and a vibration that is non-ego, and what happens? You attract to you bigger than, better than you could even dream. People will walk up to you when you're least expecting it. You're not even saying a word. They will walk up and they want to be around you. Why? Because the energy that you're putting out. I know when my wife is unconditionally loving because there's this pull that just takes me to her. And there are moments when I think she's judging me. And you see me doing a moonwalk backwards. Isn't that true, though? And where does conflict come into our lives? Conflict comes into our lives when we're being drawn towards someone because it's a vibrational match, and we back away instead of going to it. Or if we're being pushed away from someone because we're not a vibrational match, and we move toward it. You see, when you've got energy going in opposite directions, that's where all conflict happens. That's where you have the anger, you have the argument, you have this. Because if you're not vibrating the same, it can only be unmatching energies colliding against each other. Ooh, isn't that interesting? So when we're having disagreements with people, there's a difference between a disagreement and expressing opinions. Can you understand the difference there? One is when you are emotionally charged and you need to be right. I don't care if I'm going to be miserable for the next month. I don't care if I'm going to sleep on the couch. I don't care if I'm in the proverbial doghouse. But on this point, the bitch ain't getting it. It's just that way. There's no other way to say it. I'm not giving in. Have any man done that? I have. And in that moment, I've been miserable because I am going against my divine nature. And my divine nature is not to judge. My divine nature is to be in oneness. You see, anytime there is a need to be right, that's the ego coming out, wanting to claim its power. One of the things that I talk about that's become one of the most difficult lessons that I had to learn was that when you argue with someone, you're only trying to convince yourself. It is never about convincing the other person, because when you truly believe something, you'll only say it once. It's when you don't believe it that you say it over and over and over again. How cool will it be if you've got an arrangement in your life with someone that you've decided that we're going to argue and tango every chance we get? Wouldn't it be cool if the next time you were with that individual, you simply stated your opinion, they stated theirs, and they wanted to go on, and you just switched the subject? And if they continued and they continued and they continued and you didn't say nothing, finally you would look at them and say, you know, there's no reason for us to engage anymore, and you just walk away. How cool would that be that you loved yourself so much, so enough, that you decided that I am worthy of not engaging in some activity that causes me deeper separation, a deeper sense of lack of self-love, a deeper sense that I am not worthy of my own opinion, that I must have their blessing. See, you don't need to be blessed by anyone else. Because when you are living your authentic self, every core of your body, every cell of your being is resonating at a higher vibration. And you know it, you feel it, you sense it, you live it at that moment. You don't need anyone to say, my God, you're doing a great job. You don't need that. That's the ego that wants to be fed. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong about that. You see, we're not here to get rid of the ego. We're not here to kill the ego. We're here to transcend it. We're here to rise above it. Because let's be honest, we're not going to rise above the ego every moment of every day for the rest of our lives because we're human. This is the idea of the path to enlightenment that we're exploring each and every week here, is that enlightenment is a process that we have glimpses of and moments of and maybe double moments of and triple moments of, and when we go back into contrast, because it is in the contrast that we're able to expand our minds and to grow more, to experience more. And the only reason we are here is to create an experience and to create an experience. You see, with every experience we have, we form a new desire to create even more. Like Mary, beloved Mary's here. I didn't expect her here because this morning I woke up and I said, oh, she's giving birth today. And so I did not expect Mary here today. But Mary had this beautiful experience a little over 2 years ago where she birthed this beautiful little boy, beautiful little boy. And she was living and breathing that experience, and all of a sudden, that experience caused what? Her to get pregnant again. So the key to not getting pregnant is not having a first child. No, but Mary desired an experience of yet another child. That's a very simple example. But it's the whole idea that when you're in a job, in a career, and you've got this career going right now, and you've taken it to its highest level, and you get the experience of it, we're no longer satisfied there, are we? Because we've hit the heights of that job at that moment, and we know that we've got so much more. So the experience of that job has caused us to want to create a higher experience so that we can use more of our talents. We can use more of the wisdom, because remember, we are infinite wisdom expressing. My favorite affirmation is divine wisdom guides and directs my every thought, word, and action. So if divine wisdom is guiding and directing my every thought, word, and action, divine wisdom is never stagnant. Divine wisdom is always expanding and becoming more and expressing and experiencing more. So if I say that affirmation, I have to be open to the experience of thinking, saying, and experiencing more through my actions. And you see, this is the metaphysical path. This is the spiritual path. It is aligning those three aspects. So many times we align our thoughts and our actions. Maybe not our words. We align our words and our thoughts, but not our actions. You see, they all three have to be in alignment. That, when we have all three in alignment, it says that we have a belief. And that belief resonates through the core of our being, through every cell of our body, because we're thinking it, we're speaking it, and we're acting it. And when you do that, you will demonstrate that which you are speaking. And the process of creation is shifting our subconscious mind through the conscious choice of our thoughts that is feeding it and changing its makeup so that our thoughts automatically go there. So, if you are having your mala beads, I don't have them with me, they're in back right now, but I'm always saying, one of my favorite affirmations, good things always happen to me, good things always happen through me. I say that over and over and over again. Every day I do it 108 times. So I'm in the Sears Fix-It store the other day, a week ago, and I took my lawnmower in, and it blew up. It wasn't going to work. It was just blown up. I don't know what happened to it. I took it in. The young man there said, oh, by God, you're still on warranty. Nothing's going to happen to you. I didn't even think that my lawnmower had blown its engine a year ago, and it was under warranty then. But because they put a new engine in, it was under warranty for another year. And he says, it's going to be 2 weeks. but it's not going to cost you anything. I said, thank you. And I said to the young man, I said, good things always happen to me. He says, I love that affirmation. And he says, I'm going to remember that affirmation. So he says it's going to be 2 weeks minimum because we're backlog, okay? Thursday, I get a call from Sears. This is 5 days later. Your lawnmower's ready. I walk into the repair shop later that afternoon. The young man who had waited on me the time before was right there, and he says, oh, you're the positive guy. What are you doing here? And I said, my lawnmower's ready. He says, it can't be ready. It's not ready for 2 weeks. And I says, go check. He comes back, and he's pushing my lawnmower. He says, this stuff does work. How is this happening that this works like this? Because I believe it. Because I'm saying it over and over. I'm thinking it. I'm expecting it. You see, expectation is an action. Another mantra that I use all the time is, I live and breathe in positive expectancy. I live and breathe in positive expectancy. I expect it to happen. I expect good things. And that's how I want to live. I don't want to shift out of it. Because the second we shift out of it, then we expect what? Things we don't want. Now, you don't have to write all these affirmations down because I'm in the process of putting together a sheet. And I'm going to order mala beads so that you can come here and get your mala beads and your affirmations all at one time, and we become like a one-shop stop. Because everyone that I'm teaching this to, I taught this to a class in Houston 2 weeks ago. I was asked to participate by a fellow minister to teach this in a class. So I got on the phone on a conference call and I taught this. And when I had a prayer call on Saturday with the minister that I taught the class to, she says, everyone went out and got mala beads that next couple days. And everyone is now using the affirmations you gave them. And here's what's happened. One person wanted to sell their house. Their house sold. The second day that they were doing the mala beads, their house sold. See, divine wisdom guides and directs my every thought, word, and action to sell my house now to the perfect buyer for the perfect price. You see how you expand that? Now, that is not ego. That's what I want to point out. Because I'm directing the law, it's not ego, because it's not in judgment, and it's certainly not to the disadvantage or hurting anyone else. You see, when there's nothing that harms anyone else, the door is open. Anything. Anything that you want is yours. Because why? Because you are the individualization of God expressing. You are the perfection of life expressing. And as such, I like this. Let me share my other one. This is a great one. Because I'm thinking, what's the best affirmation for all aspects of life? So let's look at abundance. I live and experience a lavish and abundant life. Now think about that. I live in every aspect of my life. I'm doing it. But not only am I living it, I'm experiencing it. And what is it? A lavish. Lavish could be anything, but it's your job to discern that. And what? An abundant life. Meaning that you've always have more than enough that you can have and that you can share. You see, the idea is it's not about accumulating. When you're holding on to things, that's the ego. Because the divine knows that there's an infinite flow always going, so it's able to release. That's the beauty of it. It's able to let go. So I got a wrist mala yesterday. And I put it on. I just looked at it. It was a little tight for me and that type of thing. And my wife put it on, and she says, do you want it? And I sort of sat there for a second, and I sort of said, she says, I sort of like it. And I looked at it and said, take it. See, it's not you don't be attached. See, when the Buddhists say attachment is the grounds of all sorrow, they're saying the ego wants to attach to things. The ego wants to own. When we're not attached, we don't own, we're back into oneness. The second you lose this, something else comes up. There's never a void in the universe. So how do we release the grip of the ego? The first thing we do is we observe. We come from a consciousness and realize that the ego is always there. So we're observing things in our life. We're just observing. The next thing we do is we don't judge. We see that there is contrast, and we make a discernment that that doesn't need to be our experience. It doesn't need to be what we do. It doesn't need to where we need to be. If someone is expressing something, here's a great example. I've gotten very sensitive. Not that way, but I got sensitive in that I can't deal with violence. Violence has an impact on my mind. It doesn't matter if it's an action movie or whatever. So I was in the gym a week and a half ago, and I was talking about the movie Grown Ups 2, which was my type of movie. I go in, I laugh myself silly, I come out. Well, a couple of guys at the gym were talking, and I was sharing that with them, and they said, well, you got to go see The Heat with Sandra Bullock and this very funny comedian. And so I put it off. I knew it was a police movie. Well, last night we went. I went against something inside of me because I was listening to an opinion outside saying, this is funnier than the grown-ups, okay? And yet I was observing that I was feeling a pull, a twinge that was not in alignment, and I went against my twinge. Now, the movie is absolutely hysterical, and there is extreme violence in the movie. How do you think I slept last night? I woke up this morning having the worst night of sleep I've had in ages because I'd put a thought in my mind that I had made a conscious decision not to allow myself to do. I went against it. I followed my ego instead of going into oneness. You see, this is where you don't listen to other people. This is where you listen to that still, quiet voice, that pulling sensation from within you that is your heart center. This is where you step out and you become the 0.1% and you create and lead your life. Last week we talked about do not be a part of the 97% of the people out there who are living unconsciously, because as you become a part of that, as you do what they do, you will have their experience. You will experience poverty. You will experience a lack of health. You will experience a lack of love. It is only people who are conscious and consciously using their minds, using their intentions, aligning their thoughts, words, and actions that are the creators, and there are not many of them out there. So you've got to look long and hard before you agree to allow someone into your consciousness on a regular basis, because that's going to surround you and feed you in a way that will be either supportive or it will be taking you off course. Because the ego is going to say, I want you as a friend because I want you to like me. I want you as a friend because I need to be fed by what you're telling me. Divine love doesn't need anything to feed it. Divine love can be by itself as you, as me, and feel totally whole, perfect, and complete, and happy and joyful. Divine love doesn't need anything other than itself and the awakening to that. You see, that's what the journey to enlightenment is. It's awakening to the oneness. It's awakening to the love. It's awakening to the connection. It's awakening to you. But not the you that the ego's defined, but the you that is a point of consciousness within the divine that knows that it is whole and perfect and infinite as it is and has all the power it needs to create and express itself. There is no one in the universe that is better than you. There is no one in the universe that's less than you. Everyone in the universe is the individualization of God, and everyone is perfect. And when we can come out of that judgment, we will live in love. We will live in peace. As Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. John Lennon said, imagine. All the great teachers talk about oneness, and they talk about this coming together instead of separating. Your challenge this week is, how do I bring this into my life? How do I see things as one? How do I break my habits? How do I find the true me that wants to express? I know for you, when you decide, it is done. And I know for you, as a part of this community, that everyone in this community will love and support you as you do that. Because we see you, and we know who you are. You're God expressing, and you're perfect. I want to thank you for joining us today. I am so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask you to go to our website. Once there, click on the Contribute button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to the world. I would also ask you to please share this message with anyone you feel might benefit. Again, I want to thank you for joining me and the Agape community as together we bring joy to life.